Not exactly hidden. He's just finished explaining the situation to Magi Kemka when his communicator goes off. It's an unknown number. He turns it on and doesn't say a thing. The hotel room is eerily silent for a moment as he just breathes calmly and evenly. "Is that the breath of Morgarkun I hear?" a male voice asks, and Morgarkun blinks in confusion. "It is. Who is this?" "I am Captain Gregory Schmidt of the Chainbreaker. We were in the neighborhood when we found out that a friend of a friend is part of a very hefty bounty." The human, for what else would be this brazen, states. "How hefty?" Morgarkun asks. 10 Axiom Ride trade bars, Captain Schmidt says, and Morg's jaw drops. 100 million credits in cash, he demands with his voice a little higher than he intended. "Yes indeed, kiddo. Now, normally my entire team would be on that in a damn hurry, but you're an ally, so I'm going to cut a deal with you." "A deal?" Morgarkun asks. "We keep you out of the hands of other bounty hunters, and when the little lady is ready to go home, you tell us, we pick her up and bring her ourselves. That way you get backup, we get money, the mother gets her daughter back, and the daughter gets all the time she needs to figure things out and sow her wild oats. Sound good?" Captain Schmidt offers, and Morgarkun goes very still. This can go bad in a lot of ways. He's legit. I recognize his voice. Koga sends into the dark forest, and Morgarkun freezes at that thought. "Hang on, I'm coming," Dale says through the woods before suddenly being there with his hand on Morgarkun's shoulder. "Can I borrow this for a second?" Sure," Morgarkun states, and Dale takes the communicator from him and puts it on broadcast mode so everyone in the room can hear it. "Hey, Pukey. Dalio. So it's true then. Sorcerers got weird beyond planet-scale teleports." "We do indeed," Dale replies. "All right, you've given them an offer, but what are you actually planning on doing?" "We've already helped big time. We've got our hackers messing with the communications between a lot of teams, but we showed up a little late, so a fair number of them are already on your scent. Still, we got more than half of them off you already. We're also planning on sending down air farce to help you guys get running. We've got a plan to basically have you guys seen as getting into a high-performance air van with a couple of Axiom bafflers in there and a teleporter so you can leave it without being seen. And scanning will make them think you're still in there as he leads them around. Right. With me and the rest of the sorcerers causing chaos, we should give you plenty of time to either get some plans hammered out and put them into action," Dale remarks as Imigar suddenly arrives with his arm around Dale's shoulders. He's got a massive gun that looks like it's rated for either shooting at or clubbing starships slung over his shoulder, and a smile so wide his face looks like it's starting to split. "Oh, this is gonna be good," Imigar says happily. "I've been wanting to try out a pop gun ever since the design made it to the rest of the Undaunted." "You brought your own pop gun? How's it handle? You got any suggestions for them?" "Well, the sound baffling isn't something you should recommend so much as require. These bitches are louder than an opera star with their balls in a vice screaming into a megaphone." "Really? I expected all the spikes on the weapon to be what got the most criticism," Pukey remarks. "Nah, they're too useful to use as a bracing point or to spike into the surroundings to stop it from bouncing too hard when fired." Imigar notices. "Right, so we need a plan to distract things from this angle because let's be honest, there's no way that the many teams of bounty hunters still on your tail aren't making a plan as we speak. So we need to throw a few dozen monkey wrenches into their plans and get you out while everyone is freaking out. Do you have an idea of what to do? Is there a win state for you, Morgarkun, or is your best option to jump onto our ship and lay low with us until people think that you've already left?" Pukey asks, and Morgarkun considers. He then pulls out his samples and Dale chuckles. "My ultimate plan for coming here was to see if an outgrowth of the dark forest could be started on Lilb Tulelb. If we can get such a thing started, then we have an unassailable fortress and have effectively won." Morg Archon states and Dale nods. All right, so the distraction and teleportation plan seems to be a go. We're sending down a second team with the beacon. Where do you want it, Morg? Pukey asks, and Morg Zarkin thinks as he remembers the forest. 10 kilometers south of my current position, Morg Arkin states. All right then, that puts you in the western branch of the local mushroom forest. A good place to start growing things, Pukey says. All right, now time to get to the nitty-gritty. How the hell are we getting these two into the van to begin with? Dale asks, and Pukey chuckles. Buddy, relax. Think things through and the answer comes to you. We're good at this sort of thing. There are easy ways to do this, especially if Alara is willing to change her clothes before rushing out. An extra second or two can mean the world in a rush, Pukey says, and then they get to planning in earnest. So, just one Axiom Adept man out of his element and a spoiled noblewoman's daughter. I don't see why we need to plan so much. Brenda asks without asking. The entire team is around a table in the moderately busy Thirsty Queen bar. 8 women with centuries of experience between them all, some formal training as well, and all licensed with the proper accreditation to hunt just about anywhere in the galaxy. Brenda herself is one of 3 Horchka in the team, and has long had a very dark green skin color to blend in with the darkness, but she's still very much muscle on the team. Because they're both from an apex species with a very long martial history, the sorcerers are the type of people that an Apuk battle princess steps carefully around, and all Apuk nobles descended from war ladies and conquerors. Yes, the current Duchess only sees her sweet little girl, but I'm willing to bet my tail feathers she's trained enough to kill bare-handed and bare-ass naked. Greta Niav, the Pavorus leader of the team, states. Her dark blue and green plumage blends in well with the darkness. So we do this smart, so that we all get to walk away from this. Not to mention there are other hunters here, likely whole teams about to crash down on them sometime soon. So what do we do in order to get our hands on the girl? How do we safely contain her without hurting her and get her off-world without another team picking us off and swiping the prize? Nami asks. The Ikiata may be the smallest member of the team, but she's used her small size to her advantage more than once. I spotted nearly a dozen scouts, and I'm positive that the target's bodyguard saw at least a few of them, meaning they're going to be ready and either trying to slip away or launch a counter-ambush, possibly both. Well, if they're going to run somewhere, where would they go? If we can get ahead of them, then we should have an easy time of it. If we can get specific about it, then we can even lay a trap and just grab them both and slap them in stasis. Uma Silkstrand asks as she slowly picks up and considers her drink. The weaver Archna stares at it as she thinks. Hopefully wherever they're going to bolt to, it's not around here. The rain and wet will interfere with my webs. Girls? My tail hairs are standing up. I think things are about to go down. Jessier Stripe, the oddly enough mottled tan and black Phaley notes. Shit, Greta says, slapping some coins onto the table as she rises up. She trusts her friend's instincts. Time to go. Girls, I need options. Where are they going? Who's leading who where? If it's the sorcerer, then they're going into the woods. If it's the girl, then they're heading to the beaches. Which is it? It's the boy! Spoiled noblewoman's daughter is going to be overwhelmed by everything, Nami calls out as she gives chase. She and the rest of the group throw up barriers to keep the rain off them as they leave the bar and start rushing down the street to where they know Morg Arkun and Alara Salm are staying. It's the girl, Uma counters. She's been taught to lead all her life. Of course she's going to boss around others. There's a concussive whump and the sound of metal caving in on itself before an Axiom engine sputters and screams. An armored air truck falls out of the sky with a chunk ripped clean out of the front, and above the rain is the sound of mad laughter from a man. Oh my God, that was fucking awesome! Ah ha ha, who's fucking next? I want to do it again! The man with the gigantic cannon covered in spikes declares gleefully while a ruined armored air truck bounces and skids along the street. In response, Brenda, Glinda, and Matilda rush in front and brace themselves with Axiom. The truck slams into the three and loses hard to stop dead in the road. The door opens up after a moment and a go-bee woman climbs out with a groan. "That wasn't a railgun or coil gun," she mutters in a daze. "Are you all right?" Brenda asks. Truck's fucked and head spinning. How the hell were we supposed to know that there were 20 fucking armed men in there and not just one? Where did that girl even find 20 men? Where can I find 20 men? The go-bee babbles, clearly dazed but otherwise fine. She's not even cut from the looks of things. An air van drops out of the sky right in front of the hotel, and there's a series of bangs as the sorcerers ward off the hunters, and the target and her escort are very clearly loaded into it. Too clearly. Greta preps a tracker anyways, but her down is starting to stick up from how suspicious this looks. As the van swoops overhead in plain view of the now hundreds of visible hunters, she throws her tracker clean at it. The throw is good, and it magnetically clamps to the underside, alongside about a dozen others at once as the air van takes off hard. Dozens of other vehicles in pursuit. "Do we give chase?" Brenda asks. "No, that was too obvious." "I think it was a distraction," Jesser says contemplatively. "I got the same sensation. You're the one trained with Axiom insight." "Where do you think they are?" Greta asks. The woods. Sorcerers live and breathe nature. Coming here wasn't a fake out. This was the kind of destination he wanted to begin with, close to someplace wild and strong. I don't know if he can do the things he can on Serbo here, but I think he's going to try, and I think he's going to have friends helping. Shit, okay. "What have we got for scanning equipment that will pierce this rain?" Greta asks. "I've got some basic scanner drones. If we up the intake on thermal imaging, we should be able to find them as hotspots in the forest. Apuk really stand out heat-wise," Jessier offers. "Good. We use those. If the air van isn't a distraction, then the tracker will lead us to them. If it is, then the tracker will convince them we're fooled. Either way, get the drones out." "So, how are you two liking the fun so far?" Airfarce asks as he leans back at his passengers. Morg Arkin and Alara Som, aka Magikemka, are certainly there, but there's also the massive forms of Mr. T and the Hat squeezed in as well. Behind them are a whole series of large, loud, and very, very attention-grabbing munitions they've plundered from dozens of criminal organizations. The plan isn't to kill fellow bounty hunters or even damage too many of their vehicles, but if they're dodging from the equivalent of a firecracker for dear life, then that's a bit more time for Morg and Magi. "Why are you so calm?" Magikemka asks, and Airfarce chuckles as he turns back to facing the front for a glance and weaving out of the path of several vehicles trying to get up beside them. He shrugs. I just am. I do this stuff for fun. I do this stuff for profit. I do this stuff for a living. Hell, half the time I dream about flying too. If this was any more my scene, then pilots would be called Ricos instead. I think I get it." Morg Arkin states, sounding very uncertain. "Oh, you'll be fine. I'd do this for free if I wasn't able to get paid so much for it. Heh, best scam I know. Get good at what you absolutely can't stop doing and get yourself some money for it. Heh ha. Anyways, you two are looking tense, so how about some music?" Airfarce asks as he turns on the audio system, then outright winces at the high-pitched pop music screaming through. He rips out the data chit and glares at it. "Damn it, Scaly! That's not funny!" He opens the window and throws the data chit out even as they crest over the massive rainstorm and into the freezing cold but dry air. "Right, time to bring out the personal mix then." "Close the fucking window, dude." The Hat chides him, and Airfarce mimics a complaining mouth with his hand even as he closes the window. "Oh, fine, you big baby. Anyways, here we go. Time to really have some fun." he says, laying his communicator into a cradle and activating the music selection. Brass horns start blaring out even as he pulls out a pair of sunglasses and laughs. "Come on, kids, have some fun!" He beckons them even as he dives back into the rainstorm with an entire swarm of bounty hunters on his tail. "He's insane," Magikemka states before looking around as she's suddenly offered sunglasses of her own and notices that everyone else is now wearing shades. She just shrugs and puts her own on. "Hooked on hip-hop phonics? Yeah, it works for me. So jump aboard. Yeah, this train is free." Airfarce starts singing along to the music with Mr. T in the hat as backup as Morgarkun starts to laugh helplessly at the absurdity while Magikemka snorts as she struggles to keep the giggles in.